If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Spelman College Museum, 1960. This quote was part of a speech to address college students. He was addressing Black youth to help them fight injustice, to persevere despite obstacles and difficulties that come their way. Malcolm X said, "There's no better than adversity. Every defeat, every heartbreak, every loss contains its own seed, its own lesson on how to improve your performance the next time." Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Sir Malcolm X knew what it takes to function within a system of oppression, a system that is not built to create leaders from marginalized individuals, a system that still oppresses and silences difference. I remember these quotes every time an obstacle comes my way. In my adult life, hardships come in different forms than when I was a child. My goal is to keep pushing forward to my best ability, because people will stand in your way and tell you, you can't do this and you shouldn't do that. You won't succeed. There's too much competition. Or the worst, you're just not good enough. There are a few moments in my life that have made me into the person I am today, and as a result have impacted my teaching, my writing, my advocacy, my entire perspective on the education system, and I'd like to share these moments with you all. The Gulf War happened between 1990 and 1992. Iraq never recovered from war's aftermath, and in 1994, Iraq was still undergoing sanctions. No goods or food can be transported in and out, nor people for that matter. One night, my mom woke us up. My grandpa had gotten a taxi for us. We were to flee to neighboring country, Jordan. War was over, but the desert between Iraq and Jordan was full of danger. I still remember the navy blue sky with sparkling stars. I looked at them and wondered, how can I feel so scared with those stars above me? And yet I did. Back then, Iraqis weren't very welcome in Jordan, even though there was a large number of them that sought refuge there. So my sister and I weren't able to go to school because we weren't citizens. No matter the hardship, the fear, they don't overcome me. I am who I am today because of what I've been through. I persevere despite people telling me you can't. Today, I know not to let any event, circumstance, or person get into the way of my learning, because I know that I and I alone have power over that. In education, we often talk about perseverance. We often talk about ways to help students build up their grit and resilience. But what about those students who have had to deal with tragic and horrific events in their family and throughout their lives? Jose Wilson, middle school math teacher and founder of educator, and my friend, says, for many of our most disadvantaged students, just getting to school shows plenty of grit. The fact that they're in the classroom working on math problems and writing essays when they haven't had a good night's sleep or a proper meal speaks to their zest. We can't teach those students grit and resilience ourselves. If anything, we can learn from them. In 1996, we arrived in Canada. I was in grade 5, and one day, I was called by my ESL teacher to assess my progress. She asked me to explain something, and I needed to say because, and I couldn't. So I just stayed, silently staring, silently struggling to form the words that I knew in my head. Imagine what it feels like to not be heard. Imagine what it feels like to want to say something, but can't when you need to. Today, I look back at that moment, and it was a defining one for me. It is because of such moments in my life where utter silence due to a language barrier has killed my voice that I speak my mind freely. Believe in the power of voice, especially student voice. I speak now because I know that my voice can make a difference. As a result of the Syrian civil war, more than 4 million people fled Syria. 50% of them are children. The Canadian government welcomed over 26,000 Syrian refugees this year and last year. There are many children amongst the newcomers. They all have voices and they need to be heard. And that starts with loving students, caring about them, getting to know them, who they are and where they come from. My grade 10 math teacher hated me. He absolutely could not stand me, and I don't remember doing anything specific that would have triggered his hatred. Every class was a struggle for me to deal with him. One day, I turned around to my friend to ask her what problem we were on. He sent me to the office. I cried there, and I told the vice principal how unfair it was of him to do that. I did nothing wrong. She agreed. On my way to next period, I was walking alone to the gym, and everyone had already gone to class. And I thought to myself, this man is trying to stop me from succeeding in his classroom. He's doing it deliberately, and I won't let him. I control my learning. And I did control my learning, but I also had to work very hard and had to assimilate and conform and comply to his expectations. And so I'm here to tell you that despite working hard and persevering against adversity, the system needs to also work better for and with students. We must not expect students to assimilate, conform, and comply to succeed in the classroom or life for that matter. It's important to be cognizant of our actions and our words because they can have lasting impact on people. Brené Brown talks about the importance of love. She says, we are biologically, physically, spiritually wired to love, be loved, and belong. I ended up getting a 78% in that teacher's math class. I also ended up hating math. What would have happened if that teacher made my life easier in that class? Sometimes students work so hard to try to learn something, to understand something, to pass and get that grade. But what would happen if teachers worked just as hard to help students achieve their goals? Meeting the students halfway through love, understanding, and empathy is half of the teaching. In my 4th year of undergrad, I decided to apply to an MA program in literature. And after asking my professor for feedback on my essay, she not only refused to give me feedback, but she also paused to say, I don't think you're going to get in an MA program in literature. You're just not at that level. Needless to say, I feel good that I proved her wrong. Now I try not to let anyone diminish my confidence, my self-esteem, my very being. Respect students as equals. Meaningful teaching is not only about skills and experience, but it is also about what kind of a person you want to be. Perhaps the most difficult thing to attain in the classroom is the respect of students. However, I've never met a teacher who worked so hard to earn her students' respect and did not get it right back. Because we want to open up pathways to learning, not close doors. I want you to think back on moments when you were much younger. What were some of your hopes, your dreams, your fears? Who championed you throughout school and who didn't? Some of my favorite teachers are Mr. Yoshida, Ms. Fujimoto. They stood up for me against bullying. They told me that my opinion mattered. They empowered me to speak up. They pronounced my name right. All these wonderful moments that I remember of them all displayed empathy. My friend and pedagogue, Sean Michael Morris, talks about the importance of love in teaching. He says, pedagogy is a felt practice. more than an intellectual one. We often get so caught up with teaching strategies, tech, conferences, exams, tests, that we forget the real reason we got into education to begin with. Because of our love for students, because of our love for learning, curiosity, laughter, because of that aha moment when a student finally understands something, because you wanted to make a difference in a student's life. And that alone can make a difference in this world. So I want to challenge you all today. Reflect back on that first moment of why you wanted to become an educator. What was the feeling behind that passion? Was it a drive for change? A love for learning? A love for students? Whatever it is, go back to that and never forget it. Because that's what makes you instill love and humanity in your teaching. Teaching from the heart is what makes you a great teacher. Let's make sure to let students know that your voice matters. You are loved. You belong here. You make a difference. Let us make our actions the embodiment of love, hope, respect, and empathy. Thank you.